For 15 years, I've worked as a technical consultant for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. My role with my team is to ensure that carbon credits, these vital tools for combating climate change, are real, that they represent genuine decarbonization. But what happens when a government, a future host of COP30, no less, decides to invent its own definition of a carbon credit, one that goes against every established technical standard? Here in Bonn, at the UNFCCC, we are always discussing the future of climate action. Yet, back home in Brazil, we have a governmental program called Renovabio that undermines everything that we are trying to uphold here. It is a scam and is presented as the biggest decarbonization program in the world.
According to the UNFCCC, a carbon credit or a decarbonization credit must meet two fundamental conditions.
Renovabio fails on both counts catastrophically, and for good reason, because Brazilian ethanol industry, which Renovabio heavily subsidizes, is not a climate solution. On the contrary, it is a huge problem.
Studies, even on corn-based ethanol, show a stark reality. The cradle-to-grave life cycle of ethanol can be worse for the climate than gasoline. While Brazil's ethanol is primarily sugarcane-based, it comes with its own devastating byproducts. Take vinasse, a byproduct of sugarcane ethanol production. It is 100 times more polluting to groundwater than human sewage. This isn't decarbonization, it's environmental degradation. Beyond emissions, the industry occupies 10 million hectares of land in Brazil, displacing vital food crops like rice and beans. It drives land speculation, pushing small farmers out, and has a deeply troubling history of human rights abuses, including slave labor and the poisoning of indigenous communities with agrochemicals.
For years, Brazilian ethanol producers did receive legitimate carbon credits from the Clean Development Mechanism, but that was for a specific methodology to eliminate methane emissions from the waste of sugarcane and open fields. When 50% of the ethanol producers in Brazil reached that level, it was not additional anymore. The UNFCCC stopped issuing these credits, rightly so.
The Renovabio program brazenly violates the principle of additionality. Ethanol producers are doing nothing different from what they were doing before the program began. In its first year, over 70% of producers were already deemed eligible to generate these CBIOs, these fake carbon credits. The UNFCCC has also made it clear: no more carbon credits for productive cycles that compete with food production. Renovabio ignores this.
When the legitimate avenues for carbon credit closed, the ethanol producers in Brazil didn't change their practice. They violated the law, mobilizing their immense political power. In 2017, a one-mandate Congressman, Evandro Gussi, pushed through a bill that literally invents a carbon credit against all technical standards. This bill guarantees ethanol and biodiesel producers an additional $250 billion in revenue over 10 years. And guess who became president of UNICA, the most influential sugar and alcohol union, after his only term? Yes, Evandro Gussi. The largest beneficiary, Rubens Ometo, who is the owner of Cosan and his joint venture with Shell, Raízen, the world's largest ethanol producer. Ometo is the most powerful person in Brazil, a financial political juggernaut. He owns hundreds of companies, including the São Paulo Natural Gas Company, that practices prices up to 6 times greater than market prices, acquired Petrobras natural gas assets, and even bought a stake in Brazil's largest mining company, Vale. This is a game of power and profit, not climate action. As a technical expert, someone who has dedicated 15 years to the integrity of this process, I couldn't stand by it. In 2020, I tried to submit legitimate carbon credits from a forest preservation in Maranhão, where only 3% of the Amazon forest remains, to the ANP, National Petroleum Agency in Brazil. They refused. They even stated in writing that Congress had the power to invent a carbon credit and define its characteristics contrary to international standards. That's when I knew I had to speak out.
Patrizia launched an awareness campaign, reaching out to international press when national media remained silent. She filed 3 denunciations with the Federal Public Ministry, accusing Renovabio of being the largest institutional greenwashing program in the world, a crime of embezzlement, ideological falsehood, and market reserve.
All shelved, but my voice, even if censored at a public hearing, was heard. And then came the retaliation. A criminal case brought by the very prosecutor who shelved my denunciations. Hacking attempts, computer viruses, even death threats. All designed to silence me, to assassinate my reputation. Brazil is set to host COP30. How can a country that lies in its nationally determined contributions, that champions a fraudulent carbon credit scheme like Renovabio, can lead global negotiations about climate? My job, my life's work, is about scientific truth. It's about technical rigor. When this truth is distorted for profit or for political gain, we all lose. The planet loses. I'm not asking for support in a criminal case. I'm asking for awareness. I'm asking for people to understand that these decarbonization credits are a fraud, a fiction, a dangerous distraction for real climate action. They are a lie that costs hundreds of billions of dollars and accelerate climate change. The truth, however inconvenient, is all we have in this fight, and I will not be silenced.